Everyone thinks Lake Michigan gave up its dead. It didn't. On June 23, 1950, a Douglas DC-4 aircraft carrying 58 people lifted off from LaGuardia Airport in New York. Northwest Airlines Flight 2501 was bound for Seattle. It was a routine transcontinental journey, the kind that happened dozens of times each week, but this plane would never reach the Pacific, and for 70 years the lake itself would guard the reason why. The crew on Flight 2501 knew their business. Captain Robert Lind had logged over 200 hours in the air. His first officer, Robert Reichert, another seasoned pilot, they weren't novices chasing weather into danger. They were professionals who'd flown this corridor before, yet something that night, something in those hours they were aloft, would prove fatal to every soul aboard. Here's the first detail that matters. At 11:32 p.m., Flight 2501 checked in with air traffic control near Madison, Wisconsin. The crew reported they were cruising at 3,500 feet, making good time. The weather was clear, no emergencies, no deviation from plan. They were on a collision course with Lake Michigan, but they didn't know it yet. 38 minutes later, 12:10 a.m., Flight 2501 made its final radio transmission. The captain reported they were descending through 2,500 feet. They were approaching the coast of Lake Michigan, preparing to turn toward their next checkpoint. The operator acknowledged, standard procedure, routine, then silence. When the plane didn't check in at the next waypoint, ground crews began making calls. By dawn, the entire region knew Northwest Airlines Flight 2501 was missing. 58 passengers and crew simply gone. Search parties mobilized along the Michigan shore. Coast Guard cutters cut across the lake, but they found nothing, not a single piece of wreckage. This is where the mystery deepens. Over the next 2 weeks, debris began washing ashore. Seat cushions, life jackets, personal effects, but the main fuselage, the aircraft itself, remained submerged. And here's what troubled investigators. The wreckage pattern suggested something catastrophic happened at altitude, not a controlled descent, not a water landing, an explosion, or a violent structural failure. The Civil Aeronautics Board launched an investigation. They interviewed witnesses who'd seen the plane. One account stood out. A fisherman reported seeing a bright flash over the water around the time of the last transmission. Not a crash, a flash, like something burning in the sky. Theories emerged quickly. A mid-air collision with another aircraft. No other plane was reported missing. Sabotage. The cargo manifest showed nothing suspicious. Structural failure. The DC-4 was a proven design with thousands of flight hours logged. Engine failure. Possible, but all 4 engines would need to fail simultaneously, statistically improbable. Weather emerged as the leading suspect. Meteorologists reviewed records from that night. A squall line had moved through the region, violent, unpredictable, wind shear, turbulence, hail, the kind of atmospheric conditions that could tear an aircraft apart if encountered at the wrong angle in the wrong configuration. But here's what troubled the investigators. Captain Lind had reported clear skies just minutes before. The lake held its secrets. In 1951, salvage operations recovered the main fuselage from water over 800 feet deep. But when investigators examined the wreckage, they found no definitive cause. No bomb residue, no mechanical failure markers, just twisted metal and the haunting absence of answers. The official conclusion, probable cause undetermined. Those 5 words closed the file, but they didn't close the case in the minds of aviation historians. For decades, researchers returned to those final transmissions, searching for clues in what wasn't said. The crew reported clear skies, then vanished. Why the discrepancy? Modern meteorology offers a hypothesis. Microbursts, intense downdrafts from thunderstorms, weren't well understood in 1950. They weren't even named until the 1970s. But contemporary accounts of sudden, violent wind shear over Lake Michigan matched the microburst signature perfectly. The crew may have encountered something they had no framework to understand or survive. There's an irony buried in this file. The very phenomenon that likely killed Flight 2501 became a cornerstone of modern aviation safety. After microbursts were formally identified and studied, aircraft were equipped with wind shear detection systems, training protocols changed. Pilots learned to recognize the signs. The tragedy became a lesson written in protocol. But Lake Michigan never gave up its dead in the way families hoped. Of the 58 people aboard, only 17 bodies were recovered. The rest remained in the deep, 800 feet down, where the water is cold and dark, and the currents drift endlessly. This telegram right here, this is the final message from Northwest Airlines to families of the missing. It's restrained, formal, inadequate, regret to inform you. Those words became the last official contact many relatives ever received from the airline. No explanation, no closure, just loss. Flight 2501 remains the deadliest aviation accident in U.S. history at the time it occurred. It held that grim distinction for 2 years. Today it's largely forgotten, buried under decades of newer disasters, newer mysteries. But the lake remembers. Every anniversary the water sits still and cold, guarding what it took that night. The case file remains open in the annals of aviation history, not because new evidence emerges, but because the lake keeps its counsel. We've solved countless mysteries since 1950. We've decoded black boxes, recovered cockpit recordings, pieced together the final moments of hundreds of flights. Yet Flight 2501 endures as a reminder. Sometimes the evidence stays submerged, and we're left with educated inference and the weight of uncertainty. Subscribe every week. We uncover the aviation mysteries that refuse to stay buried.